video, we'll be deriving the first equation of motion, which is otherwise called as the velocity-time relation. We have already seen what it is. It is v equals u plus at, where u is the initial velocity of the body, v is the final velocity of the body, a is the acceleration, and t is the time taken by the body. So here I have a velocity time graph, which is a straight line AB. Now this velocity time graph gives us an impression that the body is moving with a uniform acceleration. So our first step towards deriving this relation would be to draw two perpendicular lines from point B. One towards y-axis, which touches y-axis at E, and the second one towards x-axis, which touches x-axis at point C. We'll be drawing one more perpendicular line from point A to BC, which touches BC at point D. Now, we know that this velocity time graph has not started from the origin, which is here. It has started at a point somewhere here, which is not the origin, or which is above the origin in the y-axis. So this gives us an impression that the body has not started from rest. That means that it has some initial velocity. So this OA gives us the value of the initial velocity of the body. So our initial velocity we have taken as u. So this length we will be taking as u, that is our initial velocity. And since OA will be exactly equal to DC, since they are the two opposite sides of the rectangle OADC, so DC will be also equal to u. So here OA equals to u, which equals initial velocity of the body, and this also equals DC. Now the final velocity of the body is given by this length, that is OE. That is the final velocity of the body. And since OE equals to BC, BC will be also equal to the final velocity, that is V. So OE equals to V, which is the final velocity, which also equals to BC. Now OC gives us the time taken by the body to reach point B. So this we will be taking as T. Now we know that this graph shows that the body is in uniformly accelerated motion. So let the velocity of the body changes at a uniform rate. This means that the body is moving with a uniform acceleration, and we'll be taking that uniform acceleration of the body to be A, let's say. Now from the graph we see that BC equals to BD plus DC. So BD when added to DC gives us the total BC. So here when we want to find BD, we will be taking DC to the other side. So BD will be equal to BC minus DC. Now we know what are the values of BC and DC, which are V and U respectively. So on putting those values, we have BD equals V minus U. Let us take this equation as our equation number 1. We will be using this equation later on in the derivation. So our equation 1 is BD equals V minus U. Now we know how to find acceleration from a velocity time graph. All we do is to find the slope of the graph. So here we need to find the slope of the graph AB if we want to find the acceleration, which is A. So acceleration is given by BC minus DC divided by OC. So here we know OC equals T, and BC minus DC gives us BD. So here acceleration is equal to BD divided by T, and we have already found the value of BD, which is V minus U. So we'll substitute that value here. So our acceleration A becomes V minus U divided by T on using equation 1. So on taking this T to the other side, that is the left hand side, we get AT equals V minus U. Now On interchanging the terms here, we get finally the first equation of motion, which is V equals U plus AT. So here is our first equation of motion that we have derived from a graphical method using this velocity time graph. I hope this derivation was understandable to you. Thanks for watching. In this video, we'll be deriving our second equation of motion, which is otherwise called as the position-time relation. Now we already know what is the second equation of motion, that is S equals ut plus half at squared, where S is the displacement, u is the initial velocity, t is the time taken, and a is the acceleration of the body. Here I have a velocity time graph AB, which shows that the body is in uniform acceleration. Now, in order to derive this relation, we'll be drawing a perpendicular from point B on x-axis, which touches x-axis at point C. Now, we know that the body has not started from zero velocity, but it had a certain initial velocity which is given by OA. So, our initial velocity is given by OA, which is U. And the final velocity of the body is given by the length BC, which we will take as V. So BC will be equal to V, which is the final velocity, and OA equals U, which is the initial velocity of the body. Now OC is given by the time interval in which the body moves from A to B. So OC is given by time T. So OC equals T, which is the time taken. Now let the acceleration of the body A changes at a uniform rate, which is apparent from the graph here, and the displacement covered by the body will be taking it as S, let's say in time t. Now from the graph we see that the displacement of the body here is given by the area under the curve AB, or area under the graph AB, we can see. So here the area under the displacement is given by the area under the graph AB. So S, which is the displacement, is given by the area of the trapezium OABC. Here OABC is the trapezium, and if we want to find the displacement of the body from A to B, we need to find the whole area under this graph, which is AB, and this area is given by the area of the trapezium OABC. Now this shaded region, the area of the shaded region, gives us the value of the displacement in this case. Now let us draw a perpendicular line from point A which touches BC at point D. This construction has been made to find the area of the whole trapezium. We will be finding the whole area of the trapezium by first finding the area of the triangle and finding the area of the rectangle OADC, and then adding up these two areas. So that's the procedure that we are going to follow to find out the displacement. So let's move ahead. So here S equals the area of the triangle ABD plus the area of the rectangle OADC. Now we know what is the formula for the area of the triangle as well as for the area of the rectangle. The area of the triangle is given by half into base into height. We will be taking AD as the base of the triangle and BD as the height of the triangle. And for area of the rectangle, we already know which is length into breadth. Here the length we will be taking as OC and the breadth is DC of this rectangle OADC. So let's apply that formula here. So S equals half into base into height plus length into breadth. So S equals half into AD, which is the base, into BD, which is the height of the triangle, plus the length of the rectangle, which is OC, into OA, which is the breadth of the rectangle. So this is the whole formula of finding out this whole area of the trapezium OABC. Now this BD here is given by BC minus DC. When we subtract DC from BC, we get BD. So we will be putting that here. In place of BD, we will be substituting BC minus DC. We know the values of BC and DC, right? So that is the reason why we have made this substitution here. Now, we will be substituting all the values of this. AD, we know that it is equal to OC. AD is exactly equal to OC since it is the opposite side of a rectangle. So it will be exactly equal to OC. So AD is equal to T. And we know BC, which is the final velocity, equals to V. DC, which is the initial velocity, which is equal to the initial velocity OA, that is U, plus OC, we know it is T, and U is equal to OA, which is already given in the figure. So we have put all the values here in this equation. Now, S will be equal to half V minus U into T plus UT. On evaluating this expression, we will be taking this equation as our equation number 1 and we will be using this equation later on in this derivation. Now, from first equation of motion, we know that V equals U plus AT. So, V minus U will be equal to AT. So, let us take this equation as our equation number 2 here. We will be using both the equations now in the process of derivation. So, this is our equation number 1, which is S equals half V minus U into T plus UT, and our equation number 2 was V minus U equals AT. Now, on substituting V minus U from equation 2 to equation 1 in this place, we have S equals half V minus U into T plus UT. Now, in this place of V minus U, we will be adding AT, which is from equation number 2. So, on doing that, we have S equals half AT into T plus UT, which gives us S is equals to half AT squared plus UT. Now, on rearranging the terms, we have S equals UT plus half AT squared. And this is our second equation of motion, which we have finally got. So, this is how we derive the second equation of motion, that is the position-time relation. I hope this video was helpful to you and as well as understandable. Thanks for watching. In this video, we will be deriving our third equation of motion, which is otherwise called as position-velocity relation. We already know what is the third equation of motion, that is 2as equals v squared minus u squared, where a is the acceleration of the body, s is the displacement, and v and u are the final and initial velocities of the body respectively. So here I have a velocity time graph which is AB. Now here, in order to derive this expression, we will be finding out the displacement of the body from point A to point B. So for that, we will be drawing one perpendicular from point B towards x-axis, and the point where it touches the x-axis, let it be C. Now, we know that the body has some initial velocity which we have taken as u. So OA will be equal to u, that is the initial velocity, and the final velocity of the body is given by the length BC of the body, which is v, and OC denotes the time taken by the body from point A to reach point B. Now, let the body covers the displacement of S in time t. So, in time t, let the body covers the displacement which is denoted by S. Now, the displacement of the body from the graph we can calculate as the area of the trapezium OABC, which is the area under the graph AB. So, it is this area. That is, this area of the shaded region gives us the displacement of the body from point A to point B. So, this is what we are going to find here. So, S, that is the displacement, is given by the area of the trapezium OABC. Now we know that the area of the trapezium formula is half into base 1 plus base 2 into height, where we generally take the base 1 and base 2 as the two parallel sides of the trapezium. And here the two parallel sides are OA and BC respectively. So we will be taking OA as base 1 and BC as base 2. And the height of the trapezium is given by the length OC. So area of the trapezium OABC equals half into base 1, which is OA, plus base BC, which is the base 2, and OC, which we have taken as height of the trapezium. Now here we will be putting all the values in this expression now. So OA, we already know it is u, which is the initial velocity, and BC, we also know that it is the final velocity of the body, and OC is the time taken by the body. So on putting all these values, we have area of OABC equals half u plus v into t. Now this equation, let us take this equation as equation number 1. Now from the first equation of motion, we have v equals u plus at, from where we can find the value of t as v minus u by a. Now let us take this expression as equation number 2. We will be using these two equations to arrive at our third equation of motion. So the first equation that we have taken is s equals u plus v into t divided by 2, and the second equation that we have is t equals v minus u divided by a. Now we will be putting this value of t from equation number 2 in equation number 1 in this place, that is, we will be replacing this t by this expression over here. So on doing that, we have s equals u plus v into v minus u divided by 2a. On evaluating this, we get s equals v squared minus u squared divided by 2a. We have simply used the formula a plus b into a minus b, which equals a squared minus b squared. So that's the simple formula we have used here. So on interchanging the terms, that is on bringing 2a to this side, we have 2as equals v squared minus u squared, which is the third equation of motion. So this is how we derive the third equation of motion by this graphical method. I hope this derivation was understandable to you. Thank you.
Equations of motion for a freely falling body. Imagine that you are on the top of a tower or inside a moving aeroplane. When a body is dropped from the top or slipped out of a plane, no initial force is applied. However, the body falls with a uniform acceleration g under the action of gravity. Such bodies are said to be freely falling bodies. For a freely falling body with initial velocity u is equal to 0, velocity continuously increases as it falls through a height. The direction of g and the direction of motion of the body are same, therefore g is taken as positive. V is equal to gt, h is equal to half gt square, v square is equal to 2gh.
Uniform circular motion. Circular motion means when an object is moving along a circular path. Example, motion of blades of an electric fan, Earth moving around the sun. Let us explain with help of an activity. Take a string and tie a stone at one of its ends. Hold its second end in your hand and drill so that the stone performs a circular motion. Speed of the stone should remain the same throughout the motion. So the motion of the stone is uniform circular motion. To know the direction of velocity of stone at any point, release the stone at that point and observe the direction in which it goes. If this activity is carried out 4 or 5 times at different points, you will observe that the stone traveled in different directions every time. Direction of stone is a straight line and is along the tangent to the point of release. Thus, the direction of velocity keeps changing every moment in uniform circular motion. In uniform circular motion, speed of the body remains constant, but the direction of motion is changing continuously. Therefore, we can say in a uniform motion, Velocity is changing continuously. Hence, it is an accelerated motion. Consider an athlete moving along a circular track of radius r. Consider any point A on the track. Direction of velocity at any point A is along the tangent to the circle at point A. Time taken by athlete to cover one round is equal to t. Distance covered in one round is equal to circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So speed of athlete v is equal to distance by time, that is 2 pi r by t.
Center seeking force or centripetal force. To understand centripetal force, let's imagine you have a ball attached to a string and you start to swing it in circles. If you look carefully, how does it work? Because in this example, you will know how actually centripetal force works. We all know about Newton's second law of motion, which tells us that force acting on a body in a straight line is equal to mass into acceleration. So, if there is an acceleration produced, means there is a force involved with it. Suppose a body travels in a circular path as shown in this figure. Then what happens? Its velocity at this point is here and the velocity constantly changes at each point. And as we can see here, the net force acts towards the center of the circle. Since the velocity changes at each point in a circular path, velocity changes means there is a change in acceleration. What is acceleration? Acceleration is change in velocity per time. So in a circular path, there is an acceleration produced. Why? Because the velocity changes at each point. As we can see here, the velocity is changing at each point. The velocity changes, and since the velocity changes, there is an acceleration involved, and wherever an acceleration involved means force is equal to mass into acceleration. So acceleration produced means there is a force, and here the force acts towards the center of the circular path. The force and the velocity are always perpendicular to each other, as you can see in this figure. Now suppose this force, which is directed towards the center of the circle, is known as centripetal force or center seeking force. Suppose, now let's say we know that second law says that the net force acting on the body is called centripetal force, which acts in a circular path, and the acceleration produced is known as centripetal acceleration. If the ball has a tangential velocity, we have already seen that. If you suddenly cut the string, the ball will fly off in whatever the tangential direction was at the moment you cut. Let's see here. Suppose the force is always directed toward the center, and if we cut, the ball flies in the tangential direction. At that point, the centripetal force acting on the ball is constantly directing the ball towards the center of the circle or your hand. This combined with the ball's velocity keeps the ball swinging in the circle. Now, the same centripetal force that keeps the ball swinging in the circle also keeps the roller coaster on the track. So this is how centripetal force works. Now, what are the main points of centripetal force? First, acceleration is caused by a force. Then force must be in the same direction as the acceleration, and it's always towards the center of the circle. Centripetal force acts towards the center of the circle. Then centripetal force is provided by some external force, that is friction. When you started to roll it with your hand or swing it with your hand, then only the centripetal force is created. So it is due to some external force such as provided by friction. Then the examples of centripetal force are shown in the figure given below. First, this one is an atom. An electron moves around the nucleus in a circular path for which centripetal force is obtained. The electrostatic force of attraction on the negatively charged electron by the positively charged nucleus. Similarly, in this example, the planet moves around the sun in nearly circular path for which gravitational force of attraction on the planet by the sun provides the necessary centripetal force. We all know that centripetal force is provided by an external force. Here, the gravitational force provides the centripetal force. Similarly, a moon revolves around the earth in a circular path. That is also an example of centripetal force. In all these examples of centripetal force, the body moves in a circular path with constant speed under dynamic equilibrium. So this is how centripetal force works. The formula for centripetal force. The acceleration or centripetal acceleration is equal to velocity square by radius. And this velocity is tangential to the circular path. So putting this formula in the place of acceleration, what we will get? Force is equal to mv square by r. So this is how we can calculate the centripetal force. The car is moving in a circular path, and what happens? This person feels a force which is radially outward, directed outward. This is centrifugal force. The force developed in a rotating body, because of which the body tends to move away from the center along the radius, is a centrifugal force. Also acts normal to the direction of motion of a body, but radially outward from the center along the radius. And one more thing, it is only observable for the person inside the rotating frame of reference. The person outside cannot observe this centrifugal force. So the centrifugal force is not a real force, it's a pseudo force which is observable only inside a rotating frame.